Well, look at the bizarreness of this situation. Sex offenders are not allowed in that Texas camp, which I've heard referred to as Club Fed. Um, so she gets a transfer from a maximum security prison in Tallahassee to a minimum security camp pretty much instantaneously overnight after she's visited by Todd Blanche, who was Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer just 10 months ago. And he liked what he heard from her, Donald Trump's former defense lawyer, who's now deputized over at the Department of Justice. And he's apparently arranged for this transfer. Now, even for people who are allowed to be transferred, normally that's a process that takes months. You've got to demonstrate why there's some compelling reason you need to be moved from one facility to another, a change in the facts of your case or a change in the law. And then even if you're granted permission to switch, it generally takes months to get off the wait list. Well, she bypassed that entire process and has just moved over to that facility. Obviously, the administration is sending the message to her that she will be rewarded for the proper cooperation. Blanche liked what he heard her saying in terms of Donald Trump, and we know that's all they've been concerned about. They're not concerned about the victims. They're not concerned about ongoing sex abuse trafficking, if there's any that's taking place. What they're concerned about is Donald Trump, because they had an army of more than 1,000 FBI agents working around the clock searching for any mention of Donald Trump's name or any photograph or any video glimpse of him in all of these documents. So we want everything turned over. Like Donald Trump, we're demanding of the Epstein file, and we want a transcript and the original recording of all of his interviews with her, because they sacked one of the attorneys who had been on that case for a long time. He didn't bring any of the line prosecutors with him, and Todd Blanche engaged in that questioning or that conversation totally on his own.
Congressman, you gave a deadline of August 26, 13 days from now. If they don't comply, what then? What can you do? What power do you have?
Well, we don't want to give away what we're going to do at that point, but the whole country wants this information. We think that there's a strong bipartisan majority in Congress that is demanding release of the Epstein file and no cover-up. I mean, this thing just stinks to high heaven when you have a person that close to President Trump going and spending many hours with Ghislaine Maxwell, and then suddenly she gets this movie star treatment within the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It just makes no sense.
I mean, you talk about bipartisan calls. I spoke yesterday on the show to your counterpart, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia. I want to play for you what he told me about Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna's statement that sending a subpoena to Alex Acosta, the former prosecutor who gave Epstein a sweetheart deal in Florida years ago, that subpoenaing Alex Acosta is not off the table. Listen to this.
That's something that we want to work with her on. She's been someone that believes, I know, in transparency and accountability. And I know there are other Republicans who are also pushing to get the facts out. We just want the truth out. And I think, like the Congresswoman, we don't care at the end of the day who gets implicated.
You have been vocal about the need to hear from Alex Acosta. But why aren't Democrats shouting this from the rooftops now? And let's be honest, in years past.
Well, we were when he was the Secretary of Labor, and that was why he was essentially forced out of his position, rather than come testify to Congress about why he gave Jeffrey Epstein that sweetheart contract, exchanging a 60-count federal criminal indictment on all of the sex abuse trafficking for one state count of solicitation. He decided just to abandon his post and resign from the cabinet. So we believe that there's a lot of smoke there and there's a lot of fire there, and we do need to re-educate people, as you're saying, so get people to remember, hey, this cover-up started a long time ago with Epstein's lawyers and Alex Acosta when he was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District in Florida.
Very interested to hear what you hear back, if you hear back, and when you hear back on your request regarding Ghislaine Maxwell's transfer. Congressman, thank you very much for your time. And here with me now on that is our legal expert, Ryan Goodman. You're listening to this with me, Ryan. I mean, you have Jamie Raskin and others sending this letter. You also had Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. You previously had sent made a similar request about the Maxwell prison transfer. Are they right to suspect in your mind that there's something there?
There are a number of red flags. It is deeply suspicious. And some of it's the timing. So the fact that this occurs after she's actually subpoenaed by the House side of Congress, which means Republicans voting in favor of that subpoena, then the Deputy Attorney General, I'd say, rushes to her, meet with her. That's highly unusual. And then as the letter says, which is also very revealing, that there's no line prosecutor with him. That's also super unusual because he doesn't really know the case.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to be in there with her, going toe to toe and verifying what she says, you would have one of the line prosecutors that brought her to trial and knows the case inside out.
There are a few other things when you're looking through this letter that really stuck out to you. What is it?
So the members of the Congress that are citing to this actually back this up in their footnotes, that the fact that there's actually a queue, there's a waiting list. Even if the waiver got approved that would allow somebody as a sex offender to go to this minimum security prison, that alone is unusual, but then they should have to wait on a list. She jumped the whole list. So that's also very unusual. It really is special treatment for a very high level offender. And that's one part of it.
Who do you think should be most worried or concerned if Alex Acosta, now moving to that element of it, if Alex Acosta does ultimately come before Congress and testify about Epstein?
I think Alex Acosta needs to worry about Alex Acosta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he engaged in what the Miami Herald broke as the deal of the century. The fact that Jeffrey Epstein got
And he was
invited.
somewhat reprimanded by the Justice Department, right?
Absolutely. They said that he engaged in improper behavior in the way in which he did it. Now, they didn't go all the way through and say unethical and illegal. But they, for example, one of the things they fault him for, and I would love to hear him have to say this, is why did he end the investigation when it had not really reached its conclusion? They actually say witnesses were waiting to be interviewed, and if they were interviewed by the FBI, it might have led to other culprits. That's one of the biggest questions for him. And then the other big question for him is, did you receive any communications from wealthy or powerful individuals that suggested to you to go easy on Mr. Epstein? And that would be those people need to worry if they did send that kind of communication. That needs to be transparent.
And that gets to why there is this bipartisan push.
Absolutely.
Push for information on this, because it's not necessarily pointing the finger at a Republican or a Democrat. It could be all.
Yeah, the
You know what I
first
mean?
person in the Congress was actually Senator Ben Sasse at the time, a Republican, who went right after Acosta while Acosta was a Republican member of the cabinet and said, this is putrid. What has happened here, there needs to be answers, and that's when Acosta then actually steps down.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Great to see you. Up front next, break.